review, and we will get to that. Wait, started yet? Hi. I'm not going to be able to edit that out from the beginning. I am still getting used to this new format with Substack. Um, and so we'll talk about that first. So let me start by saying, welcome my unkindness. I am Victoria Camden, writer, reader, and Raybess. And so you may have noticed that on my YouTube channel, if you follow me on YouTube, that my last couple of videos are a little bit different. And that's because I am recording in Substack. There's this new feature where you can record in Substack and then it will push out your videos to YouTube and then also to Spotify as a podcast. And so, as a mother, a small business owner, and a full-time MFA student, the less steps I have when I'm doing these videos, the better. So I'm going to try this for a little while and see how it works out. That does mean that you will be getting more of my ums and my ands, and you guys know that I have a special connection with the word and as I am talking. So I apologize for that because there is no editing. Once I upload the video or as I'm recording, it just goes straight out. So unless I download it, edit it, and then re-upload it to YouTube, which then negates the whole purpose for doing this in the first place, there will be very little editing. So that is what's happening now. So hopefully that this goes well. I don't really do scripts, but I did write a little one for this. Mostly I just do bullet points so I can kind of remember what I want to talk about. But really, it's just me talking to you about stuff that I like, which happens to be books and writing. So without further ado, we are going to talk about Matt Haig's The Midnight Library. So we will start with spoiler free at the beginning, and then I will get into some spoilers. I will never say what happens at the end of a book because that is like the worst thing for me. Sometimes I will watch a review of a book, especially if it's like a genre like horror or science fiction with horror elements to it, just so I can kind of get a feel for what the themes are in the novel and then decide, okay, I want to go read it. So I never want to give away an ending or major plot points because I want the reader to go out and read these books. I mean, that's why I'm doing this. So Matt Haig is an international bestseller of the book How to Stop Time. And then this one is also a bestseller. And this novel, I really liked it. I will say. It is an upmarket novel or speculative fiction, which means that it's basically like a literary novel with some fantastical elements. Sometimes it will be a literary novel with a little bit of mystery elements. This one does have like a sci-fi fantasy element to it, which is really cool. And it is well written, but very accessible, which is also kind of a thing in upmarket novels. And just so you know, I am taking a class on upmarket novels in my MFA program, and we have to read a ton of novels. So I will be reviewing those, each one that I read. If I really like the novel, I will review it on this channel for you guys. And so I will have quite a few upmarket novels, and that will be something that you will notice, that the writing is very beautiful. It's done very well, but it's also accessible so that just you don't have to be an avid fantasy reader or horror reader or sci-fi reader or mystery reader to pick up the book and enjoy it. Trigger warnings for this book, because there are, even though the book is not heavy in any way, shape, or form, there is a plot line, and it's right at the beginning. It's like literally the first sentence of of the novel of V.C.writes. I can't say that word on YouTube because I'm not that I'm monetized, but they don't like it when you use certain words. And so self-exit is a part of this for the main character. And there is, which I will talk about in full, so that will be a spoiler, a questionable intimacy scene that might raise some flags, red flags for some readers. It did for me. I was very uncomfortable with it. And so, especially if you are a survivor, I always like to mention those things if you're going into a book so that you know whether or not you want to engage with that part of the book. You can skip it or not. It's not graphic in any way. And I don't even think when we get to it that the author meant it in the way that I internalized it. So, but I do want to state that. So basically, this book, the main character, has had kind of a troubled life. She's made some choices that she is not happy with. And it starts off when she's a child and she first there's a phone call. She's in the library with her library teacher, and she gets the teacher gets a phone call, and obviously someone in her family has passed away, and you don't know who it is at first, but it becomes obvious as the story goes on. And so it starts off with her as like a 12-year-old, I think, and then it goes into like her college years, and then where the story really gets hold, she's a young I won't say young adult, she's like mid-20s, maybe even early 30s. So she has decided that all of her choices and things that have happened to her are reasons that she does not need to live anymore. And she has been diagnosed with clinical depression. And so, and I'm not sure if it's clinical depression or clinical chronic depression, but she does have that diagnosis. And what I do like about this novel is because when I'm reading it and I'm looking at her choices and the things that she feels are so like inexcusable, I'm looking at it like, oh, but this is nothing you can't overcome. I mean, it's just very easily handled. Like, to me, maybe not easily, but there are simple steps that could be taken to like move your life in a different direction. But the fact is that when someone is coming to this kind of point in their life or their mental thinking, is that they are not thinking clearly. They are in a depressed mode. There is something different and happening in their brains that is making them feel this way. And I like that juxtaposition. It wasn't like a story of someone with all these horrendous things happen to them and they survived it and they're finally like, I've just had enough. It really is kind of a realistic look of somebody on the outside who may not understand what that kind of ideation looks like, of what it looks like for a person. You might look at someone and say, but they have this and they have that, and life is pretty good. It's not as bad as XYZ person and they're doing fine. That's not what it's about. It really is about this mental illness that has warped her thinking and her view of herself. And so we enter the book with this knowledge and we get taken on that journey with her. And so that's not a spoiler. That is right at the beginning. I like the writing in this book. I think I mentioned that. I did like the world building in the book. I do feel like the author does a really good job of letting us understand the MC. And even if you don't agree with their point of view, I understood where she was coming from. I understood what she was kind of struggling with. And I do love the resolution. I told you I won't tell you what that is, but I did really like the resolution and the way the author took the story. And I was interested from the beginning in knowing how, like, what was going to happen. I really wanted to know how the author was going to resolve this and what the choice was going to be. So now I will get into the spoiler section. And of course, there are no, I can't edit. So just going to have to say spoilers happening now. So if you want to click off, you can do that. Or yeah. And so now I will continue. So the premise of the book is that there is a midnight library for people who are in between life and death. And it could be seconds, it could be moments, the person could be in a coma, whatever the situation is for each individual person, there is a place where you can go. And in this place, you are able to look at your life choices. You can't change anything that's already been done, but you can look at a life going forward if you had made another choice. So it gets into like parallel universes and quantum mechanics, very lightly, not heavily, but quantum mechanics and quantum physics, which of course is the notion that there are parallel universes. And so this is something like if you were to read up on it, that science that's generally accepted that there could be several dimensions, and when they're looking at ions and electrons and things like that, that they seem to disappear and reappear, and they don't know where they go, and that they can have one ion existing on two different planes. It's a whole thing. So it gets into that. So basically, let's say in my life now, I chose to go to college, get married, have children, but another me chose to go to college, not get married, and pursue a different type of career. In my midnight library, I can choose a book where that was the choice I made, to not get married and to choose that career instead. And then I can drop into this life and test it out. And so because there are infinite amount of choices a person could make, there are an infinite amount of lives that you could choose from. And so you are able in this space to try on different lives. And then for some people, you have a lot of time. For some people, it's a very short amount of time. It's not really clear. There's no clock in the midnight library. It's just always on midnight. The minute the clock moves, you either have to make a choice to choose a life, or your consciousness does go away. Your life is ended in your root self, your root life. So she is given this opportunity to try on different lives. And it gets, philosophical, because at first she's like looking at these big choices, but then there's a librarian who's like, well, just look at little choices that you could have made, because any choice in your life could potentially lead to a completely different outcome than the one that you had before. So, I could choose to take Highway 100 home, but today I decided to take the interstate. And so that leads to a whole other set of circumstances and things that could possibly happen. I chose to go to this coffee shop instead of that one today. So those are the types of choices that kind of get into. Now you'll notice the book is not that long. So if I had a downside, it would be that I would have loved to have more of that kind of choice back and forth and what those lives would have been like. But in the ones that we do get some really good differences and things that she could have done. And in each life, she is successful or not successful to varying degrees. And as she's doing this, she's learning a little bit more about herself in ways that she never even really thought about herself or learned about herself in her root life. So that is a really good part of the book. And I really like that character development and dropping into those lives and seeing how they fit or don't fit. And it makes sense how the book ends, going through that process of being able to try on these lives. I will say that there, and this is where we'll talk about that intimacy scene. We learn. So there were two things. I'm not sure if it's a plot hole, but the librarian does tell her that, when you first go into the life, you don't know anything about this person. Um, it is another you, so it's another Victoria. Dropping into Victoria who didn't get married, and so I'm living Victoria's life for however long feels comfortable for me in that life, to kind of get to know it, to understand if I like this life or not. But that Victoria, should I choose or should it feel like this is not right for me, I get pulled back to the library. That Victoria will come back into their body and doesn't necessarily remember right away what has happened. So when the librarian is telling her this, she says that eventually whatever I did as this other Victoria will become absorbed into that Victoria's life as if she had done it. So, and she will remember it as her doing it over time. And then we get another point of view from another character who is also going through this process. And I don't remember, which is fine because I want you to read the book, exactly why he's going through this process. I don't think it was a self-exit situation for him. But he's been doing it for a very long time. And they end up consensually in their other selves' bodies choosing to spend the night together. And she describes it as when she's with him of like, just kind of like a character, like he's kind of jaded, and when they're together, it just almost feels like she's not there. And when she has that feeling, she feels very unfulfilled in that moment. And so she's pulled out. But he tells her that not everybody remembers what happens right away. Like they will not know what's going on, that they'll have blank spots. And so it was questionable to me that she would make this decision knowing that ahead of time. And then she's pulled out for then her other self to wake up in the middle of this act, not knowing how she got there. There's no mention of her thinking about that, no mention of her feeling sorry about that, of what that other her is going to have to go through in that moment, or what the other guy will have to go through if he was, also pulled out of that life. They're in this act where the implications are awful. Right? I mean, it's a serious thing. So even though it was consensual for them, they weren't in their own lives, and they didn't accept these lives as their own. So for whoever knows how long, those two people are going to be thinking that something happened unconsensually. And so I would have liked the author to have addressed that in just a little way, some way. Even, with her being like, I won't make that mistake again, or something like that, because, it was kind of icky. I'm not going to lie. So that part was just a little weird. I did not DNF. I did keep going, because I do realize that because of what the librarian said earlier in the book, that maybe it wouldn't take too long for the other her to kind of start remembering the conversations and everything. So I just thought that was a questionable choice within the storytelling, and also within the characters' choices themselves. And I wasn't sure how to feel about the main character in this moment and in the moments after. And the main character doesn't have to be sympathetic. You don't have to like your main character. I wouldn't necessarily say that I liked this main character. I did enjoy the conclusion and resolution of her story. And I would like to know who she becomes, if she becomes, in her choice, after this. But in this moment, it felt very selfish. And so, I don't know. I just kind of have to sit with that and think about that for a little bit. So that does happen. But other than that, I really did find the book enjoyable. I found the world building and the science of it all, the parallel worlds and universes, really interesting. And I love parallel universe stories, and I really like that aspect of it. I like the aspect of diving deep into what choices are, and the fact that we think of choices sometimes as these big moments in our life, but actually the little choices are some of the ones that matter the most. Like, do I get up on time today? Do I make myself coffee or do I make myself tea? Do I eat this banana or do I have a slice of pizza for breakfast? You know, these things that seem inconsequential, but these little choices that add up over time can really make a huge difference in our life. And so the book did its job. It made me think. And I'm still thinking about it even now, you know, that's why I'm doing this review. So I really recommend this book. Again, it is I keep looking over here because I put it down. The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I have not read his other work, but a friend of mine has, and she loves his work. So I am definitely going to get more of his books and see what else he has to say. So I hope you do too. Oh, also, check out The Fit from those who, if you know, you know. I'm a huge fan. This shirt is actually designed by Iman Reviews. I will put the link in the description. I love his channel. He's a movie reviewer, a film critic. So I will put the link in my description or underneath this video, however it works for Substack. And you can go ahead and click on his link and you can order a shirt if you're a fan. Waiting for season 5. I've knocked around doing some kind of review about it, but there's so many channels that are doing reviews about it. I don't even know if that's something I should touch on this channel. That's mostly about writing and reading. So just let me know if that's something if you'd like to see. If not, it's really no big deal. Less work for me. All right, guys, I gotta go. I have a book haul to film for you guys, and I will see you soon. Bye. Oh, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all the things. All right, bye.